My parents publicly humiliated my kids at Christmas dinner, saying they weren't welcome there. So, I quietly packed up my family and drove home. A week later, my mom called, sobbing about her leaky roof, and that's when I knew I was finally free. It was Christmas Day, and the festive cheer vanished the moment my mom announced, loud enough for everyone to hear, that my children were welcome to receive gifts because they just didn't belong in this family anymore. The air in the room turned ice cold. My wife and I exchanged a look, a silent agreement passing between us. We gathered our kids, wished everyone a Merry Christmas with forced smiles, and left. But the real gift that year wasn't under the tree. It was the peace I found a week later when my mom called, desperate and tearful about her roof, and I simply said no. Christmas at my parents' house used to be something special. Growing up, it was the highlight of the year, the smell of pine needles and gingerbread, the cozy decorations my mom insisted on putting up since Thanksgiving, the chaotic energy of all my cousins running around, hyped up on sugar and anticipation. It was loud, messy, and imperfectly perfect. But somewhere along the line, things shifted. Maybe it was when I got married, or maybe when my wife, Sarah, and I had kids, our two wonderful, boisterous, and yes, sometimes messy children, Leo and Lily. Whatever it was, the welcome mat at my parents' house started feeling a little less welcoming, especially for my little family. It wasn't like they were overtly hostile, not at first. It was more like a subtle chill, little comments here and there. My mom would make remarks about how active Leo was, which I knew was code for rambunctious and hard to handle. Lily, who was a bit shy, would get overlooked, almost as if she was invisible. Sarah, bless her patient heart, always tried to smooth things over, to find the good, to make sure the kids didn't pick up on the undercurrent of something. I, on the other hand, was in denial for far too long. I wanted things to be like they used to be. I wanted that warm, fuzzy Christmas feeling for my kids, the one I remembered so fondly. So, I made excuses for my parents. Oh, mom's just stressed about the cooking, dad's just tired after working all week, they're just getting older, you know. Deep down, though, a knot of unease was tightening in my stomach with each passing holiday. The comments got less subtle, the snubs became more pointed, and this year was the breaking point. It was Christmas Day, we arrived at my parents' house, arms laden with gifts, smiles plastered on our faces. The usual Christmas scene unfolded, relatives milling around, the scent of roasting turkey filling the air, carols playing softly in the background. Initially, it felt almost normal, almost like I'd been worrying over nothing. We exchanged polite greetings, the kids rushed off to join their cousins in what was traditionally the kids' zone, the downstairs den that my parents had begrudgingly childproofed years ago when we were all younger. Sarah went to help my mom in the kitchen, and I ended up in the living room with my dad and my older brother, Mark, making small talk about football and the weather, the usual guy stuff. Then came the gift exchange. This was always a big deal in my family. My mom prided herself on being a thoughtful gift giver, which usually translated to expensive and, frankly, often impractical presents. Still, it was part of the tradition, and the kids always looked forward to it. One by one, family members were called up to receive their gifts from under the towering, perfectly symmetrical Christmas tree that my dad always meticulously decorated. My nieces and nephews went first, squealing with delight as they unwrapped toys and games and gadgets. Then it was the adults' turn. Even Sarah got a lovely cashmere scarf that my mom actually picked out herself, a small olive branch, I thought hopefully. Finally, it was the kids' turn. My cousins' children were called up, their faces flushed with excitement. Leo and Lily were bouncing on the balls of their feet, their eyes wide with anticipation, glancing at me and Sarah with those hopeful, innocent looks that just got you. And then it happened. My mom, standing by the tree with a stack of beautifully wrapped presents in her arms, paused. She looked around the room, her gaze sweeping over Leo and Lily, who were now practically vibrating with excitement. And then, in a voice that was just a little too loud, just a little too pointed, she said, "Okay, everyone else has their presents. That's it for the children this year." Silence descended. You could have heard a pin drop. Even the boisterous chatter of the cousins downstairs seemed to fade away. All eyes were on my mom, and then slowly, inexorably, they turned to Leo and Lily, my kids. Their faces, I will never, as long as I live, forget their faces in that moment. The light just went out of them. Leo's lower lip started to tremble, Lily's eyes welled up with tears, and she burrowed her face into Sarah's side. "Mom," I said, my voice dangerously low, "what did you just say?" She actually had the audacity to look surprised. "What? Oh, it's nothing, honey. We just didn't get gifts for Leo and Lily this year." She waved a dismissive hand as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "You know, we just thought, well, they don't really fit in anymore, do they?" "Fit in?" Sarah repeated, her voice tight with barely suppressed anger. "What is that supposed to mean? They're your grandchildren, for God's sake." My dad, who had been conspicuously silent up until this point, finally spoke up. "Now, Susan," he said to my mom, his voice placating, "let's not make a scene." Then he turned to us, offering a weak, apologetic smile. "You know how your mother is, always a bit dramatic." "Dramatic?" I exploded, finally losing my carefully constructed facade of politeness. "Mom just publicly announced to the entire family that she doesn't want to give presents to my kids because they don't fit in, and you call that dramatic?" "Well, they are different," my mom insisted, her chin jutting out stubbornly. "They're louder, more energetic, they don't really follow the rules, do they?" "They're children, Mom," I said, my voice cracking with a mixture of fury and hurt. "They're 7 and 5 years old. What rules are they breaking? Being kids?" You can click on share and more to see if there is a part 2.